my time in the industry needed to come to an end because I was just burnt out. I was exhausted. I worked 50 hours a week, sometimes more. Over those period of years, I just kind of realized it was time for me to leave. My name is Rayshawn. I'm currently 29 years old and I'm rebranding my whole life, essentially. I've started this YouTube series to document my journey into my 30s and essentially rediscover my creativity. I've always been a creative person from when I was young. I used to write short stories. I used to film myself doing silly videos to practice editing. I used to love drawing. I used to love creating things physically, like birthday cards, bookmarks, all sorts of like little arts and crafts. And then I guess as I got older in my 20s, I kind of fell off of all that stuff. Maybe from my teens, to be honest, but in my 30s, that's going to change. I'm going to be doing all the creative stuff, which we're going to get into later on in the video, okay? So, yeah, I really wanted to document my time, and I just at a new place in my life where I just feel very excited for whatever comes next, even though I currently have nothing figured out, which we're also going to get into in the video. And I've, for so many years, watched YouTubers record themselves, be very brave and authentic with telling their stories, sharing their lives. So I thought it was my turn to step up to the plate. And what's a life worth living if you're not embarrassing yourself online? That's what I say. And also, if you can't tell, I'm kind of a naturally, humorous person. I'm very personable. I think I'm a natural superstar. So like, this is just my platform to be me. And also, if you haven't noticed, I'm kind of talking a fake American accent. That's something that I blame American television for, because I haven't gone out of the habit. I keep doing this. I keep sometimes reverting to like an American accent, British accent, and I need to stop, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. It's been a very long time I've been talking like this. But if you want to stick around, you can use some of my little quirks here and there. I'm gonna tell you about my story, my background, who I am, who I is, and why I is doing this. Okay, if you notice that I'm looking up, I'm just looking at my monitor to make sure I'm reading all of my notes, relaying my story in the best way that I can, and not forgetting any points that are so pivotal on my journey. We're currently starting the story at 2020. When I was in my 20s, about 24, during COVID times, I got my start working in the film and television industry. So I started as an edit trainee and I worked my way up to becoming an assistant editor in TV drama and independent feature films. I worked on lots of really cool projects with really amazing people, and I felt like I was so lucky because I wanted to get into film and TV from a very, very young age. I wanted to become an editor. I loved, like I said before, making videos of myself just for fun, for practice, learning different edit tips and tricks. I even went to university, which was useless. I didn't enjoy it. It was terrible. It was one of the worst times of my life. Okay, but yeah, I did everything that I could, from working in post-production at facilities. I was a day runner working at Britain's Got Talent and X Factor for a period of years. Not consistently, it was like a freelance job, like every other summer kind of thing. I also would learn and study about editing, watch all sorts of behind the scenes. That's what I really loved growing up as well. I loved watching behind the scenes after like the video that would end, because back in my day, I watched videos when I was really young, and at the very end of the video there would be a behind the scenes, either like song performance or a making of type of content, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, I'd always wanted to become an editor. I loved media in school, so all these different creative, I guess, outlets were very important to me, and they led to me working in film and TV. After many years of trying to get there, working in retail, being unhappy with where I was, I finally made it in. And just in case you guys want some tips, network, because that's why I eventually made it in. I got on a scheme called Screen Skills Trainee Finder, and I networked. And during COVID times, I luckily was able to get onto a project, which started my journey working in TV. So network, and what network? So I was in the industry from 2020, from the end of 2020 until 2024. So it was just over 3 years, and I learned a lot. I worked with lots of really cool people, as I mentioned before. I think worked on really great shows. I got to work at really cool post facilities. The biggest and coolest place I worked was at Pinewood Studios. That was a really cool experience. So I had lots of great opportunities. I made good money. I made up to, I could tell you guys, why not? Because I have zero money right now. So I think the highest salary I made was up to 29k. And you can make so much more than that, depending on the project and depending on the role and your level of experience. But I got up to, I as a second assistant editor working on TV drama, that's the highest that I made. As an assistant editor, I can't remember, but I was working on independent feature films, so I made significantly less. But either way, I really enjoyed my experiences. But yeah, the 29k wasn't from like one job in particular. It was over a period of the year. I worked on maybe 3 or 4 projects, and in total I made that much, which was really cool because I grew up, working in retail, not knowing that I'd ever make, that much money in my lifetime, let alone the potential to make more than that, hopefully, as I go forward in life and get new opportunities and save and all that stuff. It changed how I viewed money, how I viewed the idea of being talented in your field and what you could eventually, make from that. I also got really cool opportunities, like I got to go to rap parties. So a rap party is essentially a party which happens at the end of every filming cycle. It's typically crew, it's not necessarily cast and crew, sometimes it can be, but you're just kind of celebrating that you all worked on this really great project together. And when I went to a rap party for a show called Hijack that I worked on season 1 of Hijack, I met Idris Elba, and it was a 5-second interaction, but I will never forget it. He probably has, understandably, but yeah, that was so cool. I met Idris Elba. I've met so many other actors and directors from shows and projects that I've worked on, and I felt really cool being part of the room. So the Idris Elba was like my only name drop that I can think of right now. But yeah, that was a very cool opportunity. I'm also a really huge Sonic fan, and I got to work on the TV show called Knuckles on Paramount Plus, which was an amazing opportunity for me. That's when I was at Pinewood and I was doing all sorts of things. I got to go on set for a cast and crew photo. I got to learn how everything was put together. I got to interact with the VFX team, see the animatics. They were also filming Sonic 3. I got to see the plates, VFX plates that they would then eventually add the characters into, and just learn a bit more about how that kind of process of live action works, which was so cool. But overall, my time in the industry needed to come to an end because I was just burnt out. I was exhausted. I worked 50 hours a week, sometimes more. I never felt like I had time for myself. I didn't have much of a personal life. I'm very independent. I'm quite am I introverted? I don't know. I guess I kind of grew up being introverted, being alone, used to my own company. So me working in the industry worked out because I wasn't really doing much on the side anyway. I could stay late, I could work, for many hours. I don't have dependents to have to look after. So my experience in the industry doesn't compare to someone who also has a family and, those kind of responsibilities. But I became very drained, felt lots of imposter syndrome. I felt like I was making all these mistakes. I wasn't progressing as fast as I wanted to. And I just became extremely anxious, extremely depressed, unhappy, and honestly a shell of myself, especially on one of my last projects. I became really deeply a person that I didn't recognize, in terms of how insecure I was, how much I felt like I was trapped in the place that I was in. And this is not a opportunity for me to badmouth the people that I worked with. or anything like that. I'm just sharing my experiences and how I felt working in the industry. And yeah, over those period of years, I just kind of realized it was time for me to leave. Also in 2023, there were actor and writer strikes, which made it very difficult for people across the industry in roles of different kinds, of all levels of experience. It made it very hard for everybody to find work. And I just kind of knew that my time was coming to an end anyway. And with that, paired on it being hard to find work in general, just made me decide that I was done and I wanted to try something else and see what else my life could look like. And I honestly felt like a giant failure. I'm not gonna lie. I was living with my best friend at the time. We had our own place, and I suddenly entered the period of having no work, and I just felt like I honestly was such a failure. I had nothing to show for my life. I felt really lost and deeply unhappy when I decided to leave. And yeah, it's not a time that I look back at fondly but it did have an upside, because you can see I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm smiling. But yeah, it was a very dark time for me. I would say, so 2023 was when I decided to officially leave the industry. I took the last 3 months of that year off because I needed to recuperate, think about what my life could look like, make some plans, also rest and just enjoy my period of being like off work. And I knew I had some savings to last me for a little bit, so I just decided to take those months off, and I'm very, very happy I did, because that was the start of lots of foundational things that I still do to this day that I'm very grateful for. And I only was able to discover that by taking that time off for myself to honestly just go back and look over my life. We obviously go from studying to working and then figuring out what comes after that. So I'd never truly been able to stop and take stock of my life. So that was a very, very pivotal time for me, and it was honestly something that I am deeply grateful for. During this time, I made a weekly planner on Notion. I love Notion. Notion is the perfect productivity planner in my opinion. I also made my first vision board for 2024. Let's see if you can have a look at that. So it has a whole bunch of things on here that were unrealistic. This was a very unrealistic board, but I got really excited. I had things to do with like finding a new career, improving my mental health, traveling, having the perfect morning routine. There was all sorts of things on there, and lots of quotes as well that were meant to inspire me. This is my 2025 vision board, which has things as, I guess, similarly, morning routine, checking in with myself, with my mental health, being more charitable, traveling. We also have, let me see, hobbies. Oh, actually, I did do this last year. We're going to talk about all of this as we go forward. And my 2026 goals, which I can show you, I put it on paper. Why does it look backwards? Is this backwards? But it has things to do with like making content, working out, and figuring out my career. So these ones are kind of like accomplished / are being accomplished. So I'm totally fine showing you my goals for this year. So I made the vision boards. I also started to speak positively to myself and started to become my own like cheerleader and hype myself up. Like in Insecure, when Issa Rae is like talking to the mirror and she's like saying that she's the shit and all that stuff. On all those songs that are like, I'm the best. I started to do that for myself, and that's really impacted how I view myself, like in a positive way. Yeah, I've never really done that before, but it's really helped me become more confident in the journey that I'm going on, the person that I'm becoming, just by being more positive to myself, allowing myself to make mistakes, and looking back on my past and realizing that, everything that I've been through has been for a reason, for a purpose, and is going to impact the way that I've grown in the future in a positive way. During the 3 months, I did all that kind of stuff. I started to work out, I believe, and start to implement a new way of life that I wanted to follow through with. I also started to look into different career paths, like lots of random things like mental health, events, psychology, graphic design, which I was always really interested in from a very young age, from like back in school when we had to do artsy classes and graphics classes. Let me just clean my glasses real quick. So through looking at graphic design in particular, I came across UX UI design. I didn't know what that was. It sounded very confusing, very technical. But when I started to look into it more and more and watch like people on YouTube talking about their careers in UX UI, working for themselves, working remotely, I said, hell yes, this is the path for me. I just became really invested in the idea of what the UX UI career had to offer. The fact that it was creative, you could work for yourself, you can make good money. And I decided that I wanted to work in tech at the end of 2023. Okay, 2024, guys. We're getting there. So in 2024, I knew I had savings to last me for about a year. And during this time, I had to go back into retail. I had a job at a games place where I was a host. I had a job working in a shop. I had a job in filming TV for a little bit. So I worked on a TV project as cover. And I mainly spent the year looking for full-time work, but I wasn't able to secure any. So I looked for like jobs in administration, retail jobs full-time. I just wanted to get something quite quickly to sustain me being able to live in my apartment. I had to also sign up to Universal Credit, which I hate it. Anyone who's been on it hates it. Okay, so I joined Universal Credit, and they weren't, for whatever reason, they weren't able to pay all of my half of the rent. They paid like a percentage of it because they said my rent was like too high for them to be able to cover the whole thing. So I ended up living that whole year with my savings going down and down, paying for a portion of my rent. When I eventually decided to join Universal Credit, I didn't sign up with them straight away. My rent and bills were very high, and they kept getting higher because the landlord was greedy. I was doing all I could to find work. I worked in odd jobs in retail. I went to job fairs. I looked at different job sites. I was trying to think of all these different types of strategies. I even had interviews for sales jobs, which at the time I didn't realize, were commission only jobs. And some of them seemed like scams, but I had no idea because I'd never been that desperate before to look for work. But yeah, I immediately was just looking for all sorts of survival jobs. The sales jobs were crazy because you'd get an interview quite quickly, and then they would harass you on email or try and call you to make sure you were going to the interview or make sure that you were checking in with them. And that was a very stressful time for me. There was even a job where I feared for my life because probably it wasn't that deep, but there was a job where they didn't tell me what I'd be doing, because I had a phone interview with somebody, I believe, and they said to meet up at a particular place. Some kind of introduction or presentation would be shown to me that told me what the role was, but I kept asking what the role was on the phone, what do I have to do, or what do I need to know, and they wouldn't tell me what it was. And then I got an email saying where it was, how to get there, and then there was a video attached that showed you directly, that had somebody walking and filming themselves going to the building because it was apparently hard to find. So I watched the video, but the vibes that I got watching that video, hell no. It was just a regular standard video that somebody walking around in London, then turning to the right, going down the street, and then the building was there, which looks like a block of flats, and it had whatever company it was, it had their number was one of the intercom buttons that you pressed. And I was like, why is it in a flat? I don't understand. Why is it not in an office, high rise? I was like, why is it here? And also why do you have to turn the corner? Why is it away from the main areas? So I just watched the video and I thought, if I'm gonna go to that building, that's my last day on earth. So maybe I was being a bit dramatic, but I just had a very bad feeling of going to the building, especially not being told what the job was. So I survived because I didn't go. And yeah, when I looked into those jobs kind of afterwards, I found out that quite a few companies were pyramid schemes, and I don't have time to go from freelancing to suddenly working in a pyramid scheme, get even less money. So that was fun. Towards the end of the year, I knew that I'd have to move back home, which is where I am right now, in my childhood bedroom. And yeah, I went through kind of a sad time, feeling like I'd failed and like I was going to come back home and be the exact same as I was before, not really having achieved everything that I wanted to. But that was my feelings towards 2024. Feeling like I was very chaotic, trying to do all these things to sustain myself, and then ultimately giving in and accepting my fate. 2025, we're here. We're almost there, guys. We only got one more year to go. So 2025, I moved back home and I immediately pretty much started upskilling. I wanted to get into UX UI. I took a boot camp in it. I learned cybersecurity as well to try and increase my chances of getting into tech. Cybersecurity was not enjoyable. I did a self-study course. I didn't like it. I kept falling asleep watching the videos. It wasn't for me. My UX UI bootcamp was for me. I loved it very much. It was extremely intense. We had to hand in 2 pieces of homework each week. So I honestly spent 6 or 7 days out of the week for like about 3 months. I think the bootcamp was 3 months. Yeah, I worked on I spent those entire months working on the bootcamp, not really taking breaks, sometimes falling asleep at my desk, sometimes working until very early hours in the morning, which is not great, but it's mainly because I really enjoyed it. I wanted to learn, I wanted to hand in my best work, and I also had this strong desire of trying to make something new happen for me career-wise. So I thought like studying and, you know, burning myself out, doing all that stuff was kind of the way forward, which it was not. I do not recommend that kind of lifestyle for anybody, but at the time, that's what I chose to do. I also had some support around this time. So I had a career coach who was very helpful, which I got towards the end of 2025. And I got that career coach from doing a different program. I also did a mentoring program somewhere else. So it was all very useful, starting to get experience talking to people that worked in different fields and who kind of wanted to help me on my journey. My appointments for Universal Credit, thankfully this time around, are remote. When I initially joined, I had to go in the office, which was, if you want to go to hell on earth, you go to the Universal Credit in person. It's just such a horrible, depressing, like bad vibes place. I don't know why it exists as a physical building. Why do I need to go there when technology exists? Anyway, yeah, my appointments from Universal Credit are remote, thank the Lord. And my Universal Credit coach popped up and informed me that I would have to sign up to a scheme which is called the Restart Scheme, because I was out of work at this point for about 6 months due to me not being able to find work the year prior and me focusing on studying when I moved back home. I guess in total that had spanned 6 months, and they put me on this scheme, which I understand that they have to do, but it was very annoying trying to explain to my coach that I did not need a scheme. I was busy and I didn't want to do it, and then I was just told, oh, it's mandatory that I have to do it. So I was like, okay, bet. I found a job. Maybe a few weeks later, there was a leaflet that came through my door not too long after I moved back, and there was essentially a job going for people that lived in the borough where I live. And yeah, I called up and inquired about it and said that, oh, I'm currently studying, but I'm very interested in this position. You know, could you tell me some more about it? So I found out about the job. It was a telephone job. I can work remotely. I had to get a headset and call people up and get them to answer a survey. And I was like, okay, cool. So when I found out from Universal Credit that I had to do some stupid restart scheme, I got the part-time job. It was an evening job. And like I said before, I had to call people up, read out a script and try and get them to answer a survey. And I had to make a certain amount of calls every hour. It was very stressful and I hated it so much. I hated the job. It was terrible. People would hang up on me. And obviously, saying all of this, I worked in retail for many years. And I also hate that too. But anyway, so I know the kind of the experience of how certain people can act and the behavior around someone being like lower than them in customer service. But yeah, this job took it to a whole different level. I'll get hung up on, I would read my script, halfway through people would hang up, I would be shouted at. Someone told me one time that they just come back from a funeral whilst I calling them. Somebody else answered and said that they're in the bath. Why would you answer the phone to an unknown number in the bath and then tell me you're in the bath, lady? People would often say they have to feed their kids. They just finished work. Why am I calling them? Don't I know that people have jobs that they're doing? What do you think I'm calling you? This is my job. And I had some okay experiences. People were either really nice on the phone and did the survey and were very like kind and had the best housing experience ever, or they were very terrible and they hated their housing and they hated me for calling them and blah 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 blah. I eventually left that job. I finished my boot camp because at the time I was still studying. We're getting towards like after summertime. Spent the next few months looking for a full-time job in UX UI, not realizing how competitive it really was. But yeah, I had a portfolio website. I updated my CV, my cover letter. I went to a whole bunch of tech networking events for the first time. I met lots of really cool people, you know, just trying to get myself in a new environment and potentially a new line of work. And guess where that got me? I'll tell you. Nowhere. I didn't hear back from any of the jobs I applied for, and it's a very competitive field. If I was to continue UX UI, I know it would probably take me a lot longer than I would like for me to get a role. And then after I was applying for jobs and getting nowhere, Universal Credit popped back up and they said, hey, we see that you're not working, you're no longer at the telephone job, now it's time to start Restart. Yay. So I started the Restart scheme, and I went to appointments, and this was coming up towards the end of the year. And then I got another job working for a museum at Christmas time. This was another job that I hated thoroughly. I didn't enjoy it. I had to walk around telling customers they couldn't sit on the stairs, getting housekeeping to clean up if there was like spills, just generally patrolling. You had to have the radio on all the time. You were never really let go for your break or your lunch on time. It just kind of became a job of me clock watching. Yeah, I liked being outside on the queues and checking people's tickets because that was like the easiest thing to do. And it also went by really quickly. Selling stuff, being at the cloakroom. But when you're in a quiet area of the museum, either sitting down at a desk or walking around pretending to do something, the time kind of stands still and you're standing still with it. So I left that job too. And I was actually told by someone that worked there that I let them down, which was a bit weird to hear that, especially like kind of sounds like you got your feelings involved. Like I didn't leave the job and say I hate this and that's why I'm leaving. I just left very professionally and said I can't do this anymore. Obviously me leaving without notice and all that stuff is not ideal, but in all my jobs in the past in retail, I'd always worked the notice, I'd always left, you know, and done the best work I could, and I was kind of over it. So I'm like, for once in my lifetime, I'm just gonna leave a job without having to like, you know, work the notice. And also being at home, where I'm privileged in that sense to be able to do something like leaving a job randomly, which I don't take for granted, but I am trying to find a job that I actually like. So yeah, I left that job. That comment was a bit weird. Yes, I left without notice, I do get that, but me letting you down as in like there's one less person walking around wearing the high vis, looking bored, like what am I really doing? Okay, that brings us to 2026. So if you're still here listening to me rambling on and on and on, I appreciate you. Hopefully you're getting the content that you know so desire. Hopefully things are working out and you're enjoying the story. So I don't know why I just did that. 2026 has been a lot more peaceful for me, especially coming from a year like 2025 where I was studying, I moved back home, I started working in jobs I didn't like. I was doing a lot in that year, and this year has been a lot more peaceful, a lot more grounded, and a lot more creative, I would say, as well. I took a bit of a break in January because I just worked during Christmas time. so I didn't actually have a Christmas break. And then I decided that I didn't want to work in tech anymore. I didn't want to work in UX UI. My intuition told me we're not going to do this, and I was like, really? My intuition kind of told me, yeah, we're going to do something else. This is not what we're supposed to do. And I was like, you're right. I have decided to listen to my intuition a lot more than I used to, even though it kind of hit me randomly. And it seemed like, you know, these last few years I was focusing on trying to get into tech. Now suddenly I don't want to work in it. So it was a bit confusing, but I trust it, and I think it was the right decision for me. So then I started to think of what else I could do, and I landed on working in social media roles for charities as my next path. And the idea of doing that didn't come from like nowhere. It didn't come out of the thin air. Because if we go back to 2023, what I didn't mention was that I have been volunteering for a network since then, and the network aims to help women get into post-production, and I love what it stands for. It helps women of color in particular, which really resonates with me because obviously my experiences in the industry were not the most diverse. So I love that I've been able to support a brand with their social media goals. So I thought maybe I could do something similar for another company in the charity sector or the non-profit sector and see how that would go. So I started to look for those kind of roles, and I eventually landed a role for a company in February, volunteering for them, helping out with their social media, which is a very good start. And then I decided I didn't want to do that. So I decided in February, maybe towards the end, that I actually didn't want to work in social media or a design role long term. I am interested in the community outreach side of working in charities. So roles include content creation, you know, helping out with workshops, helping out with events, talking to people, administrative tasks. It seems like a mixed bag of things, which is more appealing to me. So I'm currently trying to look for volunteering or, you know, work opportunities to get into the field that way. My next step is to focus on community outreach type of roles in charities. So that's where I was at by the end of February. But when it came to March, things really started to shift for me. I'm very open to still pursuing charity work and getting a full-time role, but I kind of realized, like, deep down through like journaling and through thinking about my life and what I really wanted to do, is that I do still want to have a creative career. I want to work for myself, and that led to me starting this whole series of discovering my creativity again, because I put it away for so long, trying to focus only on editing or industry opportunities, but never really focusing on things that was just for myself, for play. And moving back home has really helped me to rediscover things that I loved doing, like drawing, painting, so many different things just for fun. I didn't obviously share them online or anything like that. I just did them, and it was just so wholesome. So I'm trying to get back to that side of me, and it really has helped me become happier, excited about life. I feel like in the future I could have a creative career doing something, I don't know what, but that would really be very fulfilling for me. So that's why I'm on this journey of trying to figure all that out. I've also started to do the artist's way. So I finished week 1. I'm currently on week 2 at the time of recording this. It's been really, really great. It's really helped me dive into my creativity a lot more, figure out some of the things that I want to try, want to explore, and I've been able to be a lot more open with myself. So for a summary of week 1 of the artist's way, I don't love the morning pages. I think it's very long and arduous. Forcing yourself to write 3 pages for 7 days out of the week is very long. I journal very regularly, but as and when I choose to, it's been difficult trying to figure out what I want to say, but I have found it quite helpful in some ways. But when this program is finished, this 12-week course, I don't think I'm going to keep up the journaling 7 days a week. I don't see myself doing that, and not for exactly 3 pages either. It's too restricting. I need to sometimes write 4 pages, sometimes write 2, 1. So that's how I feel about the morning pages. I also really resonated with the idea of the shadow artist. So for week 1, they talk about the shadow artist, which is somebody that wanted to do something creative but ended up doing something adjacent to that. So for example, let's just say an actor who ends up being a drama teacher, but only, stays as a drama teacher, doesn't pursue acting on the side or anything like that. They just teach drama to help other people follow their goals of being an actor. And or somebody else, they gave an example of like a business person who also really loved fine art or collecting art, but they were always too scared to like let people know, something like that. And I don't want to be a shadow artist, okay? What I've been doing, as I mentioned before, with the companies that I'm volunteering for, making their social media, I'm really enjoying it. I've also been improving my own social media with just more design content. I've really found that a lot of fun. Why is there always a siren though? I feel really good with the idea of trying to find work right now, but long term wanting to do something creative, so building up hobbies on the side and documenting them. Like, I have so many things I want to try and do. Like, I want to do arts and crafts classes, like a painting class, a drawing class, a pottery class. I want to make an EP, and like, I can sing. I got a little bit of pipes in me, but I've never seriously thought of trying to like make any kind of music, except for when I was a teenager and I made like a few songs which weren't great. I recorded myself playing guitar and I put it on a loop, and it's really obvious when the song restarts. But I've always been very good at like making little jingles and singing them and having them be really catchy. So I think it'd be really cool to put that together as a music project. Learn instruments, learn how to songwrite. I'm going all in when I move out and have my own space. I can focus on that a lot more. I want to have a music room with a microphone. I want to record myself singing. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. Currently, I'm focusing on design while I'm volunteering for the networks, while I want to improve my own socials, while I'm living at home. I'm focusing on my design stuff. Those are my kind of main creative vocations that I'm thinking about, and I just hope it all goes well, to be honest. My plan for the rest of this month is to continue volunteering, so doing social media for the companies that I mentioned. But also, I'm still looking for work. I want to try and find a retail job so I can start working sooner rather than later, and then resume my job search for charity roles in the community sector. I need to find something because I'm going insane, stir crazy, being here looking for jobs every other day. I also want to continue my workouts and try and be more consistent with them, which is it's a process. It's a process for sure. I'm starting my YouTube series, so I want to continue filming stuff and then put them together, eventually releasing them out to the world. As of when I do that, I have not decided because I'm scared. I wish myself good luck. I wish you good luck if you're watching and you're also in a similar position. You can do it. You can eventually find the thing that you want to do next. Journal, script your goals, do whatever you can to figure out what it is that you truly want from life that doesn't keep you stuck, doesn't keep you feeling like you're trapped. Just go on that journey for yourself as well. Like, I'm on that journey right now and I'm a giant success. So I recommend you do the same thing as well. I thank you so much for watching, and if you want to stick around, I guess I'll see you in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe.